Hi everybody, Suzy Reno here. I get a lot of questions about my sampler wall, and I recently took it down because I had to paint. I painted my living room. I've been slowly painting the interior of my house. And I just thought, it might be a fun thing to do a quick little tutorial on how my sampler wall was constructed. Most of you know that this was already here when I moved in. The previous owners had family pictures on those rails. And I just thought, what a great way to display samplers, because number one, they're always going to be straight. Number two, you can just swap them out either by season or by holiday, or, you just get tired of them and you want to, switch them up, or you finish a new one. Easy to swap and move around. And you don't have to put a bunch of holes in the walls. Like those rails are always there, and you just put on there what you like. So I loved it for a lot of reasons. One of the things, though, that I didn't love is the rails were a little bit skinny. And so since I was taking it down anyway, I thought, this wouldn't be that hard to modify. What would happen was, the issue I was having is, like, the bigger samplers that I have up, they would have a tendency, the kitchen is on the other side of that wall, and they would have a tendency to want to fall forward with any movement. So I had to have little bits of like 3M command strip behind each one of the larger ones so that they wouldn't tip off the shelf. I didn't like doing that, obviously, because you can't switch them around so freely. So what I did instead is, when I took the sampler wall down, I went and actually got different boards for these that have, they're deeper. So they had like 1.5-inch boards. I went and got 2.5-inch boards, and that extra 1/2 inch makes all the difference. And this is what I'm talking about. It's the depth. So this is a lot deeper than it used to be. They used to end like, right here or so. So I've got an extra inch now, and now my samplers just stand on there just perfectly, and nobody wants to jump off. So I am going to take you, since I had to take it down anyway, I'm going to take you through a tutorial of how I did the sampler wall, or how my sampler wall is up. And this is not difficult if you've got a handy guy in your life, or a handy guy, or even a handyman. You could show him this video and he or she would, should be able to put this up, no problem. You just kind of need the right tools. And one of my quilter friends, her husband Earl, is a handy fella, and he's got a beautiful workshop, and they were kind enough to share their services. And I am ever so grateful, because this is exactly what I wanted. So I'm just going to kind of take you through how mine is up. Hopefully you will, if this is something you want to do, you can make your own sampler wall. All right. My holes are already drilled, but I will show you how to determine how to find your studs. And most of you know, most of you know that a studded behind a wall is a big frame of 2x4s. So they're placed in there like this, and most walls are every 16 inches they have a stud. Okay, so you just have to find one stud. And so here's how I find mine. And I don't know if you want to zoom in at all.
What are you using?
I'm using a stud sensor. Good question. I'm using a stud sensor, and the way that this works is green means you're good. There's no stud, and you slide this along. And as you get closer to the stud, you will see, now I'm near a stud. So what I do is I always kind of make a little line on the wall, just very lightly, and then I keep going. So I've got stud, 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 stud. Oh, there, I'm losing it. Okay, so then I make another line right here, okay? And between those two lines, that's where my stud is. So you can drill into that, pound into that, and then you know that you are going to hit pay dirt with a stud on the other side, and that whatever you're hanging here is going to be secure, okay? These, if you wanted to cheat, what you could do is you would, make like an X in the center. That's where you would put one drill, or one hole, or just a mark actually. And then what you would do is get a tape measure, and every 16 inches there should be a stud. Okay, so that's kind of standard code. Every 16 inches is a stud. So that's how you figure out where your studs are. And I will show you how the boards go on the wall next. Here is where I got my supplies. I went to Home Depot. I am not endorsed in any way by Home Depot to tell you to shop here. This is just what is convenient to me. Any home improvement store should have these basic supplies. This is just, 3 miles from my house, and it's what works for me. So this is the area where I found the boards. They are already primed. They're 8-foot boards. They actually read that they are a 1x3, which means that they're supposed to be an inch thick and 3 inches wide, but really they're only like 5/8 inch thick and maybe 2.5 inches wide. So that's kind of weird to me. You can see that's the price that I paid. That was just last week. So, they should be similar in your area, maybe give or take. But that was it. I used 3 boards. The center board is longer than the top and the bottom, and that just kind of makes it pleasing to the eye. Not all of these boards will be perfect, as you will see in the next picture. What you have to do is take them down and look at each one of them individually. You have to kind of lay it out and eyeball it, because some of them will be very, very crooked, and they'll be very wavy, and just kind of look at them both ways. You can see the damage on these two, so just be careful when you're choosing. This is what I do. I kind of lay it out on the floor and I eyeball it. This is a pretty good board. So look for boards that don't have many imperfections, and that's how you do it. I then headed over to the molding area. The molding area is where you find that decorative piece that goes on the front of the board, and they have lots of selections at Home Depot, but again, any store should have these basic wooden choices, different decorations and that kind of thing. This is what I paid for the, I chose the embossed rope. Actually, the previous owners chose that, and that's what I needed for the side. Here's a picture of my friend Earl. He is a master carpenter. He's got a fantastic workshop. He's the husband of a quilter friend of mine, and he's actually even done a little quilting himself. He's sort of a jack of all trades, and just an all-around great guy, and was so kind to help me cut my boards. And as you can see here, I had the luxury of having boards that I already knew what length they needed to be. So he just had to trim them to those sizes. So I was a little spoiled in my project. That's something that you will have to determine how long the boards should be to look good on your wall. And as I said earlier, my center board is just a little bit longer than the top and the bottom one, just to kind of make it aesthetically pleasing. In this picture, you can see that Earl is going to cut the 45-degree bevel that is needed for the molding on the edge, the depth, covering the depth. If I had reused the old pieces of molding, they would not have been long enough. They would have been an inch short. So he's just cutting a new bevel for me on those little pieces of molding. These will get painted and tacked to the edge. In this picture, Earl is marking on the boards where he is going to have to drill. As I said, I had the luxury of my other boards that came off of the wall, so it was very easy to mark where all of the holes needed to be. You are going to have to hold your board on your wall, eyeball it. It would probably be helpful to have a buddy to do this with also. But eyeball it where you want it to go so that it looks nice on your wall. And then you're going to have to make a mark on the board where the studs are. And that is where you're going to drill your holes through the depth of the board, as you can see here. The other thing that Earl used after the holes were drilled is a little tool called a countersinker. And what that does is it recesses a little spot where you drilled. And then that way the screw head will have a place to sit so that your molding can go over the front of the board without being hindered by that screw. Okay, so you can see my 2.5-inch boards here that I bought at Home Depot. What I have done is I have just put a coat of, I use the same color that happens to be on my woodwork. The previous owner told me what color they used, so I just matched it. But I used I believe it's a semi-gloss white is what I use, but obviously you can stain these, you can make them whatever color you want. And what I did is just, I rolled each side. You don't have to worry about doing this side or the ends. And the reason is because, got one hiding under here. You are going to be putting these trim pieces on those edges. So those are going to be covering the edges, so you don't have to paint those. So it's real easy to just give these a cover of paint. So you just do one side, and then when it's dry, you flip them over and do the other. So, and now it's these are ready to go on the wall. So, okay, so I am at the stage where I am going to hang my shelves on the wall. So you will notice I do not have the molding put on it yet. That comes after, because the molding will cover all of these nails. These are number 10 4-inch nails, I believe. So that is adequate to get us through this 2.5-inch board, through the drywall, which is, say, about a 1/2 inch. So that's 3 inches, and then you'll have 1 inch into the stud, okay? So I'm just gonna start with the center one. Like I said, my holes already happen to be here, but what you would do, it's best or easiest done with a buddy. You kind of just get what I would do is drill in the middle one. I've got these started. They're not in the wall, but they're in my board. And you know, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna start with the middle one. And then if you're doing this for the first time, use your level as your friend and balance your shelves to where they're level, obviously. So I'm gonna just go ahead and I'm gonna go in with this center one here. Oops, I think I'm going the wrong way. Oops, what am I stuck on? Oh, there we go. Oop, that's the wrong way. Here we go. So my center board is in, and now I just have to just kind of play with these, and they look pretty level. I'm gonna have to play with this one just a little bit down here, but it's all gonna level out really nice. So once these are in, I'll show you another video so you can see them all in, and then, like I said, my friend Earl is gonna stop over with his finishing nailer, and we're gonna put the molding on. So that'll be the next step. And then I think that's the next and last step. So see you in a bit. In this picture, you can see that the boards are now mounted to the wall. I never said how long they were. Just for some reference, on my wall, the center board is about 90 inches long, and the top and the bottom board are each about 80 inches long. So the middle one is about 10 inches longer than the top and bottom ones. Obviously, you do whatever works for your wall. This picture here just shows how far apart mine are. They are right around 18 inches apart. That seems to be a pretty decent spread, actually, for various sizes of samplers. And then the best part of the project was when Earl came over with his finishing nailer. A finishing nailer is a power tool that uses, it connects to a little air compressor, and it uses air to fire the nail into the wood so that you don't have to use a hammer. And it's great for trim pieces and small things with, it doesn't leave much of a mark at all. One thing to be aware of is that if you're going to put it real close to a corner or something like that, to make sure that you have enough room to get your trim pieces on with the finishing nailer in the corner, because you can see here it was kind of a tight fit for Earl. And here is the finished sampler wall. It's all ready to go. You can see how nice everything looks on there, and it's ready for my samplers. And that is it for my sampler wall tutorial. I hope that you found this helpful. I hope that you find it to be a good resource. I do want to say that I am not a professional carpenter, and if you have questions about how this will work in your particular living situation, I would definitely consult a professional, because I am not. I appreciate all of you watching, and good luck!